The next team is Renaissance Consulting Nigeria.
Good afternoon to the Board of Directors. My name is Sheil, and this is my colleague, Marcus, and together we are Renaissance Consulting. Before we dive into the key issues plaguing your business, we discovered that there are 4 overarching themes that are affecting the automotive industry as a whole. First, stronger competition, technological mega trends, more complex environments, and higher capital requirements. While prioritizing the issues plaguing your business, we use 3 key factors: urgency, financial impact, and ethical implication. The Paris Accord, which is the most important, will be discussed by me, while Marcus comes up and talk about the cost optimization and company structure. Then I will tell you how you can dominate the e-mobility market, and Marcus will come up and talk about product portfolio rationalization, and finally we'll wrap it up with sourcing of cobalt in Africa. The new wave of emission regulations will hit in the next 8 months, and hence, as you can see from the charts, none of your brands meet these standards, apart from, and even Bugatti quadrupling these emission standards. Hence, Board of Directors, this is not a question of emission regulations, but this is a test of company core values. And as such, we recommend that the board invest a capital sum of 19.5 million euros into the development of new MEB engines. Not only does this meet 4 out of the 5, not only would this allow you to meet present, but also future emission standards, helping you to avoid incidents like the Dieselgate scandal. Furthermore, this meets 4 out of the 5 questions in the Tucker model, except for the question of profitability, which leads me to my next point. Although this investment might seem unprofitable in the next 5 years, this does not take into consideration the edge to give in the e-mobility race and potential increase in profitability in the US market. Furthermore, hence we recommend that the board source these fundings from 2 strategic sources. First, we recommend that the board shell out 3 billion euros from its cash reserves and invest and raise a loan of 16.5 billion euros from a syndicate of banks in the US at a basis point of no more than 180. Next, Marcus will come up and talk about cost optimization strategies.
Thank you, Sean. We are aware that the board is contemplating the addition of the volume segments in order to meet the 6.75% operating margin targets, as well as the global decentralization strategy. While we made the research and found out that the margins of cars in the volume segments, of cars equivalent to volume segments in the industry generally low, Volkswagen passenger cars in the last financial year had an operating result of 4.1%. Then it is sufficient to say that this is an industry problem rather than a company problem. Here's another interesting fact. These small cars show big potential in emerging markets. In 2012, they accounted for 30% of global sales, but this 30% corresponds to 60% of all cars sold in emerging markets. In the next 2 years, 2 of every 3 cars sold in emerging markets are going to be these small vehicles, which is why we recommend that you continue producing the volume segments, although with a low-cost approach. This will require you producing limited body types based on one platform, as well as reduce car variants of the same model due to the specification. And more importantly, it will not be possible for you to compete in these emerging markets if you do not produce on site with the support of local supply bases and supply chains. So we recommend that you partner with local players and dominate the emerging markets while keep producing the volume segments. As regards the global decentralization strategy, countervailing forces push in both directions. While centralization is known to reduce cost through economies of scale, decentralization will increase your agility in today's fast-changing market, which is why we concluded that centralization and decentralization need not to be considered as mutually exclusive. We recommend that you centralize only decisions involving important economies of scale. This will require using the same powertrains, purchasing, quality assurance, and financial reporting systems across board, while decentralization functions such as marketing, product design, R&D, and engineering, which hinges greatly on individualization in the current industry. Now she will take us through the e-mobility strategy.
In the e-mobility strategy, we realized, after considering all possible development paths, and battery suppliers. We recommend that the board divide its strategy into two phases. First, the short-term and then the long-term phase. Over the next 3 years, we recommend that the board outsource its battery productions to Panasonic. Panasonic has the highest quality batteries on the market. Furthermore, if you do this, you will be saving 185 million euros in battery production costs over the next 3 years. But more important to note is that Panasonic is strategically located in China. And China, as we know, is the largest producer, is the largest consumer of EV, electric vehicles in the world. And even further interesting to note is that Tesla has been having problems getting their footing in China. So if you can produce your batteries within China and have them shipped, and if Panasonic could manufacture those batteries within China and have them shipped to your manufacturing plants in Shanghai, you could effectively develop the whole electric vehicle unit within China, saving you import duty costs, undercutting Tesla and dominating the market. Furthermore, the downside to the short-term strategy is that the strategy only takes the problem with the short-term strategy is that the contract with Panasonic only lasts 3 years, and hence we do not know how contract extension talks will go. So we recommend that the board swiftly invest a capital loan of 17.84 billion euros into the construction of its own manufacturing plants. This 17.84 billion should be raised in 6 funding rounds, and this construction should be located in France. Furthermore, the construction of this factory will save you 30% in battery costs and save you 3.74 billion euros over the next between 2020 and 2025. Next, Marcus will talk about product portfolio rationalization.
Members of the board, from the first quarter financial results, we found out that you generate most of your profits from few of the brands you sell, smaller than even the 80-20 rule of thumb suggests. Now, it is apparent that there needs to be a product portfolio rationalization. While carrying out analysis on the first quarter financial results as well as the forecasted year financial performance, we could also find out that the volume segment is characterized with high sales value, which overheads with its minimal profits. We recommend that you not only cease the production of loss-making cars, but declining weak and marginally profitable brands. There is a need to perform a brand audit while you have senior executives from marketing headquarters and heads of regions come together to perform a brand audit. Each executive has a worksheet that contains the global market sales revenue, target position, and even the brand's position of these brands in the several markets. Then you need to prune the portfolio in accordance to 2 criteria. First, we have the brand scale. By brand scale, we mean that the brand is or has the potential to become number 1 or number 2 in its markets. In addition, the brand should foster synergies between 2 units. Your brands such as Skoda and Seats strongly meets this criteria. Next criteria is brand scale, and by brand scale, it means that the brand is profitable enough while considering market conditions to justify the investments you need to make in keeping up with disruptive mobility in the future. Now, in liquidating the brands, we will not recommend the direct elimination of these brands. We recommend that you place the brands that are targeted for elimination in one of the 3 internal lists, either to sell them, to merge some of these brands, or to make them in order from the most complex to simplest to execute. Then there's a need to grow the core brands. You need to identify swim lanes for each of these retained brands and invest heavily in them by keeping the swim lanes distinctive and unique and reviewing the brand's positioning and gathering competitive intelligence. You'll be able to reach new markets, reach new customers, and even penetrate new geographic markets. Now, that the CEO has made a move to reduce the price of volume segments in emerging markets is a great move, as 7 emerging economies are expected to contribute 45% of global GDP growth in the next decade. In reducing the price of the volume segments, we recommend that you deploy these 4 key dynamic strategies. First, you need to understand the local innate appeal of your cars in these emerging markets. It is not enough to develop a country-level strategy as the dynamism of China, Brazil, or even India defy a one-size-fits-all approach. You have long touted German engineering as your key differentiator between you and your competitors. We believe that you factor this into pricing and you'll be able to charge a premium. Next, you need to create price ladders with multiple price points for more products, not just a single price point for a single product, as customers in emerging markets gradually become more comfortable with paying higher prices for higher features. Next, you need to prepare for currency volatility by making use of decentralized pricing decisions with local country teams which have access to local economic data. Now, finally, the strategic supply talks of securing cobalts as fields. We see that the principle of cooperative advantage comes into play here, Panasonic, as Sean has recommended, will be able to get this cobalt relatively at a lower opportunity cost than you will. So while outsourcing we recommend that you shift focus from cobalt suppliers to EVB suppliers and get the battery as a whole. You approach Panasonic to negotiate EVB supplier deals and you start developing new battery technology. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your presentation. I have some questions and let me see if I can get them in. So first of all, just a little point. I thought that you made in the detail of your case study, you actually made some really good suggestions, like, for example, limiting the body shapes of the cars. That's exactly what Tesla has done. But if I can please ask you, it sounds like you are suggesting raising two very large rounds of funding, one for the EVB and one for, what's the second one? Yeah, but you're talking about two very large rounds of funding, which fundamentally would kind of over-leverage for VW. So please justify that to me, because you're asking the board to go and kind of borrow almost double their reserves?
Okay.
So 2 rounds of funding, two funding rounds. First for the Paris Accord and e-mobility strategy. And currently, you currently have 18.5 billion euros in your cash reserves. And to fund the e-mobility strategy, you only require 17.84. You require 17.84. And as I mentioned in the slide, raise these funds over 6 rounds of funding. So in the first round, you're only required to raise $1 billion. This will help you begin construction of that plant. And in the Paris Accord, and you are required to pay 19.5 billion. So in order to pay this massive offer, we decided that the best way to do it is to get the funding from two sources. First, by shelling out 3 billion from your cash reserves.
Let me stop you there, because I get it, and we will refer to your case study for the detail on this, of how you're suggesting that. You know, the report you hand in is the data. I'm asking you as pitching to the board to raise two very large rounds of funding when costs are going to escalate. If you had to let one of those two go, which would you let go?
Definitely the e-mobility strategy, because
okay, that's cool. And then the second question is, in your first round, you're speaking of raising funding from the US banks,
yes,
the place where the Dieselgate scandal had the greatest impact. Do you think they're going to be very willing to give you a good rate on that funding, considering the risk you present?
Okay, we do believe so. This is because...
So I need to hear a reason why you believe that.
So the credit market in the US has been rising since 2010, and it is currently worth $1 trillion. So the credit market is very stable at the moment. Furthermore, Volkswagen has been having a positive net cash flow since 2000, for the last 15 years, apart from 2015, which was when the Dieselgate scandal occurred. So your finances are you are a very stable company. And hence, these banks will be assured that you will be able to pay back the money they borrow.
Thanks very much for the presentation. As you know, the board is struggling after Dieselgate, as referred to earlier. So it's all about sustainability and survival going forward. Now, this is what the strategy is about. So if you look in terms of how you have classified your prioritization, one of it was urgency. Now, if we look in terms of the future, it seems e-mobility is the future. Why would you then have that as number 3 if you look at the priorities?
Thank you very much, sir. For the Paris Accord and environmental legislation, the next wave of fines kicks in 8 months. So that means we only have 8 months to either solve this problem, and you either snooze or lose. When you snooze, you lose. There is no time to decide. So it's either you dominate this, it's either you make modifications to these new engines, or else you'll be out of market. So that's why it is above the e-mobility strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It's kind of a follow-up question from the first judge. You asked to raise a lot of funding, right? In your detailed report to the board, you mentioned that you want to rationalize the portfolio using the BCG product matrix, which was really good. However, I haven't seen what is going to be the rationalization of portfolio, what is going to be the benefit. So I just want to understand from your point of view, not in a qualitative point of view, is more in a quantitative. So how much the board do we expect to get on the rationalization, or at least in how many periods, in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? And then the second point is, you mentioned about centralization of the organization. So what this will bring to us as a company? You mentioned a couple of benefits in a qualitative point of view, but what is going to be the real benefit in a financial perspective?
Okay, sir. Let me start from the second question you just asked. So as regards the cost optimization strategy, as you find in our reports, we have the cost of sales, the admin costs, and their percentages all outlined. So by our centralization and decentralization strategy, this cost of sales will be sufficiently optimized following the centralization strategy we put in place. So for example, by centralizing purchasing, powertrains, and quality assurance systems, the admin costs will be sufficiently centralized, because admin costs includes the direct factory overheads as well as admin expenses. So the cost optimization will follow directly from the centralization and decentralization strategy.
So can you please clarify a little bit more on that? So you're saying that decentralization will bring some savings?
Yes,
which
detailed in our reports, the percentages,
yeah,
quantitative.
Okay, so that's
Yes, sir.
okay. So that's your recommendation, that just centralizing will bring savings.
Yes, sir. Following the centralization and decentralization strategy, then the corresponding cost optimization, cost functions will be sufficiently optimized.
Okay. Okay, we'll leave it at that. And then in the first question about, you use a BCG model to rationalize the portfolio. Here I don't see it back. So can you please explain how do you plan to rationalize and optimize the portfolio, the product portfolio?
Okay, sir. So if you actually take a detailed look at the reports, BCG model was one of the options of the choices we see that you could follow, but we do not fully accredit it. So we offered another option while still making use of the BCG matrix. The reason why we didn't follow the BCG matrix strictly is because it didn't put into account market conditions and also future growth potential. So if a brand is, according to the BCG matrix, is at the lowest to the right point, which is that will be the dog. So that doesn't take into account the growth potential. For example, Seats, for example, now is not a global brand, but it has a very strong chance to scale in Europe. It has a very strong chance to scale due to its strength in Europe. It has close to double-digit operating margin. So we didn't say you should use strictly the BCG matrix.
Thank you, gentlemen. I thoroughly enjoyed the presentation. I just need you to clarify for me on the structure and cost optimization. Some of the functions you asked us or you advised us to decentralize is marketing and R&D. And I'm thinking, we are talking about saving cost, and if we are going to decentralize marketing, which means basically having the functions in all our locations, I'm wondering how that is going to help us, because I think marketing R&D is one area where we could actually leverage on centralizing, in one place and just customizing maybe the research and the marketing to each market location, but at least we save on the cost of having the offices, having the people. So what was your thinking? I just want to understand your thinking around that. Maybe I'm looking at it from the wrong angle.
Thank you very much, ma'am. So the reason why marketing needs to be decentralized is the automotive industry is changing now. The customer groups are also changing. So you need a more granular segmentation. Like I said, it is not enough to develop a country-level strategy. So you need to segment by city types, and this requires local economic data. So by doing that, you are addressing, it's all about personalization. So you find out that by doing that, you actually have more sales revenue because you'll be addressing the innate local appeal of the customers in these markets. And as regards the R&D, you will likely agree with me that the R&D section, the same R&D section can work for Porsche and also work for, let's say, the Polo Classic, because these are at different extremes of the market. So we also believe that you need to really, really come down to the level of the consumers, understand local consumer data, gathering competitive intelligence, and with the right data analytics services, you'll be able to get more.